There was a time, not too long ago, when the Duchess of Sussex was poised to be Hollywood's brightest returning star. She was a woman who had walked away from the confines of royalty, rewritten her own story, and was now ready to reclaim the spotlight entirely on her own terms. After years of relative silence, she had the world's undivided attention again. A major streaming platform had handed her a multi-million-dollar deal. Scripts were being whispered about in studio corridors, and directors spoke of a true rebirth. This was to be the moment the Duchess stepped not just back into fame, but into real power. And for a little while, it worked. Behind the imposing gates of a sun-drenched Los Angeles compound, the production for her new docuseries was in full motion. Cameras followed her morning rituals, her team calls, and her private vision sessions. The show, reportedly titled I'm Meghan, was meant to showcase her strength, her grace, and her resilience. It was designed to be the ultimate Hollywood redemption arc. But as one insider would later say, what was meant to save her career ended up revealing everything she had desperately tried to hide, because somewhere between ambition and image, between control and chaos, something cracked. Before we dive into the explosive leak and the chaos that followed, it would mean the world to us here at the Ruby Report if you would hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Because the story of how this perfect comeback unraveled is one you will not want to miss. It all started so beautifully. On the first day of filming, the Duchess arrived on set dressed in soft, neutral colors, wearing a radiant smile. The crew described her as calm but commanding, walking through lighting checks with a quiet, focused confidence. She wanted perfection, but more than that, she wanted to show her truth. At least, that's what the official press release said. The Duchess is eager to show her authentic self, the statement read. This project will reveal the woman behind the headlines. Hollywood was buzzing. Talent agents called it a masterstroke, and fashion magazines dubbed it the comeback of the decade. Inside the studio, every single detail was carefully curated. The lighting was set to be warm and golden, the decor was minimalist and elegant, and the overall tone was meant to be intimate and confessional. In the early scenes, she sat cross-legged in a cream cashmere sweater, speaking eloquently about self-discovery, the power of forgiveness, and the importance of storytelling. Viewers would have seen perfection, but according to multiple insiders on set, that wasn't what the cameras captured when they stopped rolling. By the second week of production, tension had begun to simmer. Crew members started speaking quietly among themselves about endless reshoots, escalating control issues, and a series of off-camera outbursts. One producer described the atmosphere on set as walking on eggshells. It wasn't overt hostility, they said. It was a relentless pressure, a kind of unspoken demand that every single frame, every gesture, and every tone of voice had to mean something profound. She'd watched the playback over and over, one insider revealed. If a single angle wasn't flattering or if the lighting wasn't warm enough, she'd say, "We need to do it again." Sometimes she'd redo a single 5-second shot for hours. The streaming network began to notice the delays. Budgets started to creep higher and production schedules stretched further and further. But for the Duchess, this wasn't chaos, it was art. She reportedly told one executive, "If I'm going to be seen again, I have to get it right this time." But perfection has a cost, and soon, that cost began to spill into every corner of the production. The day everything changed started like any other. The Duchess arrived early, coffee in hand, with her personal team trailing closely behind her. The cameras were being set up for a day in the life sequence, a mix of scripted family time, creative meetings, and a reflective monologue about healing after intense public judgment. But just hours later, the entire project would be derailed by something no one saw coming, because someone on that set, who remains unidentified to this day, recorded what happened that afternoon. And what that audio contained would shake her comeback to its very core. According to leaked transcripts of the recording, the Duchess can be heard arguing with a senior producer over the creative direction of the episode. She reportedly demanded that a particular sequence, one showing her in tears during an interview, be removed entirely from the final cut. "I don't want people's pity," her voice can be heard saying sharply. "I want their respect." The producer pushed back gently, saying, "But that moment was real." It's powerful. Her tone then turned icy. It's not real if I didn't choose it. Then came a long, tense silence on the recording, followed by the sound of something falling heavily, a chair, maybe, or a script binder. The audio recording cut off right there. Within 48 hours, that audio had been leaked to a major gossip outlet, and by the next morning, it was everywhere. The hashtag Duchess Meltdown trended globally. Short clips of the audio were dissected on social media, memes multiplied by the thousands, and talk shows debated whether she was a demanding diva or simply a perfectionist trying to control her own image. The network panicked. Executives called emergency meetings, and lawyers began drafting damage control statements. The Duchess, meanwhile, vanished completely from public view. When she finally resurfaced days later for a private meeting, she wasn't smiling. Gone was the poised elegance she was known for. In its place was a woman who was visibly shaken. Insiders say she broke down during a closed-door meeting with her publicists, with tears streaming down her face as she whispered, "I just wanted to be seen for who I really am." But the damage was already done. Brands began to distance themselves. A luxury label quietly paused a planned collaboration. Her podcast sponsor reportedly pulled back on their next round of funding. And the streaming executives began seriously considering shelving the entire series altogether. Every minute of footage they had was now radioactive. One insider revealed you couldn't watch it without hearing the echo of that leaked audio. Meanwhile, Hollywood, a town built on reinvention, began to turn its back. Agents stopped returning her team's calls. Magazines that once fought for her cover now ran critical think pieces with titles like The Duchess and the Danger of Overexposure. Even among her closest allies, whispers began to spread. Maybe she pushed too far this time. Maybe people are just tired of the narrative. And perhaps most devastating of all, viewers began to question the one thing she had built her entire brand on, her authenticity. Was the vulnerability she showed on camera genuine, or was it just another performance? Had the woman who once escaped the world of palace facades simply built a new, more elaborate one around herself in California? In the weeks that followed, the Duchess tried desperately to regain control. She held private strategy sessions with top crisis managers. She rewrote her talking points for future appearances, and she planned a clarifying interview to tell her side of the story. But even that move backfired when word leaked that she had hired a top PR firm known for political damage control, not celebrity image making. Tabloids called it the Duchess's last stand. An anonymous source claimed the network had already halted production indefinitely. Officially, they said it was for creative realignment. Unofficially, insiders admitted the show was unreleasable in its current form. Through it all, the Duchess stayed silent, at least in public. But one person who saw her during those difficult weeks described her as utterly heartbroken. She wasn't angry, the source said. She was just lost. She kept saying, "I tried to do everything right this time. I tried to show them my heart." That's when the question began circulating through the corridors of Hollywood power. Had the world turned on her, or had she simply tried too hard to control a story that was never fully hers to tell? In an industry that worships authenticity but punishes imperfection, the Duchess had walked the tightrope and fallen. This wasn't just a pure crisis. It was the unraveling of a second act that had been years in the making. The comeback was collapsing, and for the first time, she couldn't rewrite the ending. But she didn't give up. Sources report that the Duchess held private interviews with a few select, friendly journalists, giving candid reflections on her creative process, her struggles, and the immense pressure she felt to get it right. She spoke of vulnerability, authenticity, and resilience, the very same traits that had originally won fans over. Every mistake, every misstep, it's part of the journey, she said, her voice steady but raw. I wanted to show the real me, and maybe that meant showing my tears. Her team then orchestrated a series of controlled social media posts, emphasizing moments of creativity, humor, and philanthropy. The public reaction was complex. Her diehard fans praised her honesty, calling her human, vulnerable, and brave. Others, however, remained skeptical. "This is all a setup," one commenter wrote, "carefully curated, just like before." Even the talk shows reflected the divided sentiment. One late-night host quipped, "She's either the most relatable person on earth or the best actress we've never cast." Yet, despite the criticism, a new narrative began to emerge. The Duchess, though shaken, was fighting back. Her resilience itself became part of the story, transforming the leak from a simple scandal into a saga of determination. The story, as it now stands, is unresolved. Her comeback is teetering on the edge, a complex combination of raw honesty, public scrutiny, and behind-the-scenes turmoil. The leak didn't destroy her entirely, but it exposed cracks that needed fixing, lessons that needed learning, and a path forward that will require immense courage. Will she fade into obscurity, just another cautionary tale of Hollywood ambition? Or will she rise again, finally mastering both her image and her narrative? One thing is certain, the world is watching, and every tear, every choice, and every moment from here on will be scrutinized. The Duchess's story has become more than just a comeback. It is now a test, not just of celebrity, but of resilience, authenticity, and survival in the most unforgiving industry on earth. Because in Hollywood, the cameras never stop rolling, and sometimes the real story only begins when the spotlight starts to fade.